we're good to start. Thank you everyone for waiting, and thanks everyone for joining us. We still keep receiving people, and our host will let them in when they come in. But in order to maximize our time today, we have hour and a half meeting today. We would like to start this session. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you're joining from. My name is Ksenia Bernavska. I'm Engagement and Network Specialist at Open Nuclear Network. I'm also the Deputy Director of the International Student Union Pugwash. And we're very happy to host today a very important session, a very important informational webinar titled Dialogue in Times of Crisis, Iran, Regional Security and Nuclear Risk Reduction. So as we all see in the news, the conflict in the Middle East, the war, continues to shape the international security, and understanding how developments are perceived from within Iran, from Iranian scholars, is very, very important for the regional and international community. So we brought today the leading practitioners and scholars from Iran to examine the implications of ongoing crisis for regional security and reflect what role the dialogue could play in nuclear risk reduction. As I'm sure most of you monitor the news, we have heard somewhat positive news that potential signing between Iran and the United States could be happening on Friday. There is still a lot of confusion what is there and how the deal is going to look like. And hopefully maybe the speakers today will also shed a little bit of light on what their impressions are of the current developments and updates in regard to the conflict. Before we get to the speakers, I wanted to also say that this event also serves as a launch event of an exciting young student Pugwash Iran chapter. And we will have a representative ahead of this chapter speaking today as well on the role of younger generations in conflict resolution and nuclear risk reduction later in the program. Without further ado, the last disclaimer that I have to say is that the opinions and views expressed by the speakers, as usually at the webinars we organize, do not necessarily reflect the views of the organizers. And on that note, I would like to invite our first speakers for the opening remarks to give their welcoming words to our audience today and to our speakers. And the first is Dr. Hussain Al-Shahristani, the president of Pugwash Conferences on Science and World Affairs, and also former Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research in Iraq. Dr. Al-Shahristani, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ksenia. It's a pleasure to participate in this meeting, particularly that it is the inaugural meeting to establish the Iranian Student Young Pugwash Group. We welcome you, our Iranian friends, in the folds of the Pugwash Conferences on Science and World Affairs, a global movement founded by scientists who believed that scientific knowledge carries not only great power, but also profound responsibility. Pugwash was born in 1957 from the vision of scientists who had witnessed the destructive consequences of nuclear weapons. Their message remains as relevant today as it was nearly 70 years ago. Science must serve humanity, not threaten its survival. I'm especially pleased that the inauguration of your Iranian Student Young Pugwash Group coincides with the announcement that Iran and the USA have agreed to end hostilities, remove sanctions, and respect Iran's right to peaceful use of atomic energy. Iran has a long and distinguished scientific tradition, from the achievement of scholars such as Al-Shahristani, Ibn Sina, and Nasruddin al-Tusi, to the accomplishments of modern Iranian researchers. The pursuit of knowledge has been a defining feature of this civilization. Today, you, the young scientists of Iran, are heirs to that tradition. You stand at a critical moment in history. Humanity faces unprecedented opportunities and unprecedented risks. Scientific advances in artificial intelligence, biotechnology, quantum technologies, nuclear science offer immense potential to improve human welfare. At the same time, they can be misused in ways that threaten international peace and security. Nuclear science illustrates this duality particularly clearly. Nuclear technology has contributed significantly to medicine, agriculture, industry, environmental protection, and energy production. It has helped diagnose and treat diseases, improve crop yields, manage water resources, and provide low-carbon electricity. Millions of people around the world benefit daily from peaceful nuclear applications. Yet, nuclear technology also gave rise to the most destructive weapons ever created. More than 80 years after the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the world still possesses thousands of nuclear warheads capable of causing catastrophic humanitarian and environmental consequences. The challenges before us is therefore not whether scientific progress should continue. The challenge is ensuring that scientific progress remains firmly directed towards peaceful and beneficial purposes. This is the essence of a nuclear non-proliferation. The Treaty of the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, shortly known as NPT, rests upon three interconnected pillars: preventing the spread of nuclear weapons, promoting peaceful uses of nuclear energy, and pursuing nuclear disarmament. These pillars are mutually reinforcing. Lasting non-proliferation cannot be achieved without progress towards nuclear disarmament, and peaceful nuclear cooperation must remain available to all state parties to the NPT. Young scientists have an important role in strengthening all these pillars. Through research, education, technical innovation, and international cooperation, they can develop safer nuclear technologies, improve nuclear security, and build confidence among nations. Perhaps nowhere is this challenge more important than in the Middle East. For decades, the region has suffered from conflict, outside interference, and recurring crises. The existence and potential proliferation of weapons of mass destruction have added another layer of insecurity to an already fragile environment. Recognizing these dangers, the international community has long supported the establishment of a nuclear weapons-free zone in the Middle East. In 1974, more than 50 years ago, Iran and Egypt jointly introduced a resolution at the United Nations calling for establishment of such a zone. Since then, the idea has gained broad international support and has been endorsed repeatedly by the UN General Assembly. A major milestone occurred in 1995 when the NPT Review and Extension Conference adopted a resolution on the Middle East. This resolution called for practical steps towards establishing a zone free of nuclear weapons and all other weapons of mass destruction. The resolution remains one of the most important political commitments associated with the NPT. Progress has unfortunately been slower than many have hoped. In recent years, UN-sponsored conferences on the establishment of Middle East zone free of weapons of mass destruction and other weapons of nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction. And there has been very valuable forums for dialogue among regional states. All countries in the Middle East have agreed to be party to such a treaty, except Israel, the only country with nuclear weapons in the region. Despite all these difficulties, we should not give up our responsibility to protect people from such destructive weapons by establishing nuclear weapon-free zone in the Middle East. The founders of Pugwash often reminded us that scientists should consider not only whether something can be done, but whether it should be done. This principle is especially relevant today. The vision of a Middle East free from nuclear weapons remains challenging, but it is not unattainable. Every successful nuclear weapon-free zone in other regions of the world began as an ambitious idea. Through perseverance, dialogue, and leadership, those ideas become reality. Let us hope that the new momentum generated by the agreement just announced between Iran and the US would not cease until all conflicts in the region are resolved peacefully and the nuclear-free zone is finally established. As young Iranian scientists, you have a unique opportunity to contribute to a future in which nuclear science serves development rather than destruction. Your work can support clean energy, medical innovation, environmental sustainability, and economic progress. Your expertise can help strengthen international cooperation and mutual understanding. You can also serve as ambassadors of science. Scientific collaboration has often succeeded in building bridges where political dialogue has struggled. Shared research projects, academic exchanges, and professional networks create relationships that foster trust and reduce misunderstanding. The future of non-proliferation and disarmament will not be determined solely by politicians. It will also be shaped by scientists, engineers, educators, and informed citizens. The decision made by your generation will influence whether nuclear technology becomes a source of cooperation or confrontation. Young people, especially students and researchers, hold the keys to change. You are the ones who will shape policy, innovate in science, and build bridges across divides. Pugwash has always believed in dialogue across nations, across disciplines, across generations. By engaging in honest debate, by insisting on evidence and ethics, you can challenge the fatalism that says nuclear weapons are inevitable. I encourage you to pursue excellence in your scientific careers while remaining conscious of the broader human consequences of scientific work. Be innovators, but also be custodians of knowledge. Be ambitious, but also be responsible. Be proud of your achievements, but always remember that science achieves its highest purpose when it contributes to human dignity, security, and well-being. Your generation has the opportunity to help transform that vision into reality for the Middle East. Let us remember, the future is shaped by the choices we make today. If we choose cooperation over confrontation, commitment over indifference, and disarmament over proliferation, then the Middle East can become not a theater of nuclear danger, but a beacon of peace. Thank you for your dedication to science, your commitment to peace, and your contribution to a safer and more prosperous future for all humanity. I urge you, the young members of Pugwash in Iran, to carry this mission forward. Your voices matter, your ideas matter, and together we can ensure that science and reason serve the cause of peace, not destruction. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Al-Shahristani, for these important words, not only on the global kind of nuclear architecture and importance of the Middle East Middle East WMD-free zone for our international audiences, but also for such a warm and welcoming and supportive word for our international Union Pugwash members, but also new Iranian members of the Yan chapter in Iran. Thank you so much. But now I would like to give a floor to the Dr. Karen Hallberg. She's the Secretary General of the Pugwash Conferences on Science and World Affairs, for her welcoming word.
Thank you very much, Ksenia. It's a pleasure to see you again. It's a real honor to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I could finally make it because I was supposed to be traveling, but luckily I could join you in this webinar. It's a great pleasure to meet other friends, long-standing collaborators with Pugwash, like Dr. Salehi, like our president, Hussain Al-Shahristani, and other colleagues, and mainly working in Iran towards dialogue and peace. I thank you very much, Hussain, our president, president of Pugwash, for your inspiring words. We are working together to that end. This is an inspiration not only for Pugwash, members, for the Pugwash movement, but also for other institutions and mainly for the young generation. In Pugwash, we are very happy to support the new generation, young people, young professionals, mainly through the SYP, the International Student Young Pugwash, of which Ksenia is the deputy director. And also I would mainly like to now, in this occasion, congratulate Syed for having installed and fostered the creation of the Student Young Pugwash Iran, SYP. So congratulations for that. We really we're looking forward to working together with this new chapter of Young Pugwash. We hope other regions and countries also follow, because we are really looking forward to working together with young professionals. This is fundamental in Pugwash to follow the ideas that were so eloquently described by our president, Hussain. In Pugwash, we have 4 main programs. One of them, of course, is nuclear weapons and trying to pursue dialogue, the reduction of nuclear risks, regional security, and nuclear disarmament. The second important program has to do with regional security. This is where we want to help in the region, in the Middle East or West Asia, in the Gulf, and other regions as well. We also have a third group that has to do with chemical and biological weapons, because there's a lot to do there with discovery of new technologies. This is where science can come in, with knowledge, with the responsibility, like Hussain was saying, the responsibility of us, like scientists in Pugwash, and also diplomats and other members of the community. And the fourth program has to do with science and security. So we want to offer our knowledge, our science, our network to the region, but mainly to Iran, to try to foster dialogue, to try to reach not only agreements, because Pugwash has been very active in the past and now trying to reach, to sign countries to sign treaties, to reach agreements, important agreements in the nuclear realm, like, for example, the NPT, regions free of nuclear weapons, like Tlatelolco Treaty and the others, treaties that have to do with the bilateral cooperation or treaties between the US and the Soviet Union at that time, or Russia, and another important treaties also in chemical and biological weapons. So we are ready to help. We think that Pugwash has experience not only with the network and bringing people together, but also bringing scientific knowledge, bringing scientific knowledge to decision making, but also bringing the scientific rationale to think about the problems, intellectual honesty, precision, rationality in the discussions, and also open minds to try to find new solutions to problems, solutions that can be innovative, creative, and we can present these solutions or our proposals to decision makers or to authorities. So I wanted to just to greet you, to congratulate you again, to say you're welcome to Pugwash. With a young Pugwash in Iran. And congratulations, and I totally support Hussein's words on encouragement, and I'm really looking forward to working together with not only with a young chapter in Iran, but also with our colleagues and the rest of the colleagues that are here present in this webinar. So let's think together what we can do to enhance dialogue and to find solutions. Technical solutions to all the nuclear issue, like Hussain was saying, the peaceful applications of nuclear energy and other technologies, how we can reduce the risk of nuclear energy in the presence of new technologies. So here we are, and I hope we can continue with our dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Dr. Kalberg, for your intervention and highlighting also the role of Pugwash in conflict prevention. Before we get to our next speaker, the first speaker on the expert panel, I would like to remind that this event is co-organized by Open Nuclear Network, Union Pugwash Iran, University of Tehran, Nations Diplomacy Think Tank, and also International Union Pugwash. And me kind of representing two heads here, Open Nuclear Network and SYP, we're very happy to collaborate. And I think this is also a great example of how civil society and also Pugwash groups and chapters, I think, can build collaborations in order to improve and foster the dialogue across divides, nations, and disciplines. On this note, I would like to give a floor to our first speaker on the panel, and the note to our audiences here, Dr. Salehi cannot stay till the end of the webinar, so we decided that we'll first invite Dr. Salehi to give his initial remarks, and then we'll open the Q&A, so you can actually have an opportunity to ask him a question before he leaves the webinar. In order to ask a question, please find 9 dots at the lower right corner of the Google Meet, and you'll find the Q&A function there. And if you want to leave a question there, please leave your question question in this function, and then we'll try to address a few questions after Dr. Salehi's initial remarks, and then afterwards we'll come back to the speakers, to other speakers on the panel as well. So without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Ali Akbar Salehi, the former Foreign Minister of Iran and former head of the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, to give kind of his vision on the topic of the dialogue in times of crisis, specifically in the context of the ongoing war. Dr. Salehi, the floor is yours.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Well, at the outset, I am so happy to be with you at this point in time, where the preliminary agreement between Iran and the US has been in place. Let's hope and cross our fingers that it will stay as such. And I'm also happy to have this opportunity to see our old great friends, Dr. Hussain Al-Shahristani and Dr. Karen Halberg. It had been a long time we hadn't seen each other, over a year or 2 years. Well, I'm also very glad and see that Iran is sort of involving itself in activities in Pugwash, and it has started this activity with the young generation, and this is the right way to do, because our time is over. So it is the young generation that has to take over the responsibility in this very important job. Well, the theme of today's discussion is a good theme, dialogue in times of crisis. We have been living in this crisis in the past 1 year. And this theme, it is not merely an academic theme, it is a reality in life, that when you face a crisis, you should be able to see how you can manage yourself to get out of this crisis. Well, Middle East, no need to say, Middle East continues to experience profound instability, geopolitical tensions, humanitarian suffering, and growing security concerns. In such circumstances, it is natural for public discourse to focus on military developments, unfortunately, strategic calculations, and immediate political outcomes. Yet history teaches us an important lesson. Sustainable security cannot be achieved through force alone. Power may deter, military capabilities may alter immediate circumstances, but lasting peace requires something deeper: trust, mutual understanding, and the willingness to engage in meaningful dialogue. For this reason, dialogue is not an amusement. It is a strategic necessity. It is a choice that has to be made in order to get out of crisis. This conviction lies at the very heart of the Pugwash movement, which for decades has demonstrated that communication among scientists, scholars, and policy practitioners can contribute significantly to reducing risks, preventing misunderstandings, and promoting international security, even during periods of profound disagreement. As both a scientist and diplomat, I have long believed that knowledge and dialogue remain among humanity's most powerful instruments for overcoming conflict. Science possesses a unique capacity to transcend political boundaries. Politics may sometimes divide nations, but science has the potential to reconnect them. Scientific cooperation creates channels of communication that often remain open, even when political relations become strained. Allow me to offer a personal reflection. During my years as Foreign Minister of the Islamic Republic of Iran and as head of the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, I had the privilege and at times the burden of participating directly in one of the most complex diplomatic endeavors of our time, the negotiations surrounding Iran's nuclear program. That experience reinforced a lesson that I continue to hold earnestly. Even the most difficult and deeply rooted disputes can be addressed through sustained dialogue, mutual respect, and political courage. A joint comprehensive plan of action was the product of years of intensive negotiations, technical discussions, and diplomatic engagement. Reasonable people may hold different views regarding various aspects of that agreement. However, one fact remains undeniable. It demonstrated that diplomacy, however difficult and imperfect, remains the most rational, least costly, and most sustainable means of resolving international disputes. I've always maintained that there is no durable alternative to dialogue. The challenges facing our world today only strengthen that conviction. At the same time, as we discuss peace and coexistence, it is important to recognize the historical and civilizational experiences that can offer valuable lessons for our present moment. For millennia, Iran has stood at the crossroads of civilization. Its history has been shaped by encounters among diverse cultures, religions, languages, and intellectual traditions. This long civilizational experience has cultivated a tradition of engagement, cultural exchange, and coexistence. One of the most remarkable manifestations of this heritage has been the longest-standing coexistence of different religious communities within Iran's society. Muslims, Christians, Jews, and Zoroastrians have lived side by side in this land for centuries, contributing collectively to the rich tapestry of Iranian civilization. The Jewish community of Iran, whose presence dates back more than 2.5 millennia, represents a particularly significant example of this historical community. Today, Iran remains home to one of the largest Jewish communities in the Middle East outside Israel, with its synagogues, cultural institutions, and religious traditions continuing to form an integral part of the country's social and cultural fabric. It was therefore with deep sadness that we learned of the damage sustained by one of Tehran's historic synagogues during the recent hostile and brutal air attacks. Such incidents remind us that conflicts do not only threaten lives and security, they also endanger cultural heritage, places of worship, and the shared legacy of humanity. Protecting human life, religious sites, and cultural heritage must remain a universal responsibility that transcends political disagreement. Dear participants, as someone whose professional life has been deeply connected to science and higher education, I cannot speak about peace without speaking about the importance of protecting institutions of knowledge. I had the honor of serving as one of the early presidents of Sharif University of Technology after the Islamic Revolution. Throughout my career, I have regarded universities not merely as educational institutions, but as beacons of hope, creativity, critical thinking, and humanity's collective aspirations for a better future. For this reason, reports concerning damage to scientific and academic institutions, including Sharif University of Technology, and the recent atrocities have been deeply distressing. Universities are not military assets. They are centers of learning, discovery, and innovation. When institutions of science are harmed, the loss extends far beyond physical infrastructure. It represents a setback for human knowledge itself. If we are serious about building a more peaceful future, science and education must be protected and strengthened. They must become part of the solution, not casualties of the conflict. The challenges confronting humanity today, whether nuclear risks, technological transformations, climate change, energy security, economic uncertainty, or regional instability, are increasingly interconnected. No nation, regardless of its power or resources, can address these challenges alone. Our future depends upon cooperation. It depends upon multilateral engagement. It depends, and above all, it depends upon mutual trust. Trust cannot be imposed. Trust must be built. It is built gradually through dialogue, discourse, transparency, scientific cooperation, academic exchange, and sustained human interaction. This is why initiatives that bring together young scholars, scientists, researchers, and future leaders from different societies are of such importance. Investing in young people is ultimately an investment in peace, a durable investment in peace. In this regard, I warmly welcome the establishment of Student Young Pugwash Iran and the efforts being undertaken to encourage dialogue, cooperation, and intellectual exchange among the next generation. Allow me to conclude with a simple observation. Well, I have to reconsider what I have written. An expansionist regime in this region, unfortunately and insistingly, believes that the future of the Middle East should solely be determined through military balances. And that is very unfortunate. But the majority of the countries in the region, almost all the countries in the region, believe that the future of the region may be shaped by our collective ability to listen to one another, to understand one another, and to transform differences from sources of confrontation into sources of opportunities and cooperation. Security in the modern world is indivisible. No nation can build lasting security upon the insecurity of others. May wisdom prevail over fear, dialogue over confrontation, and cooperation over division. And may future generations inherit a world that is more peaceful, more just, and more humane than the one we know today. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Salehi, for your very insightful remarks. We, of course, have a lot of questions in the pipeline. We won't be able to address all of them, just for everyone to understand. We also have a few other speakers who will be giving their remarks afterwards, but we'll do a little bit of Q&A now. I remind the audience that you can also upload the questions. So if you, for example, agree and think that this is a question that should be asked, please upload it. So Dr. Salehi will start with the first question in the pipeline that I have here. Is how sustainable is the newly announced US-Iran agreement, given that Israel, as a key party to the ongoing conflict, is not included or formally aligned with it? Do you think the current US administration has sufficient leverage to influence Israel to adhere to or support a ceasefire in this context? What are your thoughts on this? Big question.
Well, it's a very difficult question to answer, but what I can say in a concise manner is that the world is faced with a phenomenon, I call it the Israeli fatigue. In other words, the behavior of Israel in the past years, specifically in the past decade, has moved Israel into a place that in the world public opinion, Israel is no more a country that could enjoy the trust and the respect of other countries. So we are facing with a phenomenon called the Israeli fatigue. This is what I call it. So as we proceed in time, they will be in the losing side, not in the winning side. Yes, I'm not very certain on the sustainability of the agreement, of the recent agreement. But my hope is that neither the United States nor Iran, it is not in their interest to continue the hostility. And it is upon the United States. The responsibility is on the shoulders of the United States to control Israel. Otherwise, we will enter into a new crisis that this time nobody is certain what the final consequences of the, God forbid, next crisis would be. And since we don't know what the consequences would be, so it is more apt and rational and wise to avoid entering into a new crisis.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Dr. Salehi. The next question we have is, the NPT does not set limits on uranium enrichment. Do you think that a future agreement between Iran and the US, or the P5+1, should include a cap on the enrichment similar to the JCPOA?
Well, you see, the enrichment, we have LEU, low enriched uranium, and HEU, high enriched uranium. The question mark is on the high enriched uranium. So that's why internationally there is an effort to come up with a kind of a convention or a treaty, fissile material cutoff treaty. This is proposed. If that comes into realization, if that treaty comes into realization, then that would certainly give a guarantee that no country, if of course they become members of that treaty, that no country will be diverted to the HEU zone. And this is where is the zone which is sort of fearful to the public opinion when it comes to nuclear weapons. But if we consider LEU, low enriched uranium, this by the NPT is the right of all members of the NPT to enjoy this right. There is no place in the NPT that would forbid any member state of the NPT not to be involved in the low enriched uranium activities, if they can, of course. This is a very highly technological endeavor if you want to get into it. So I think, from what I have understood, that the Americans have come to this understanding that for the LEU, there is no problem as long as Iran promises that it will put a cap on its enrichment up to the place where it is called the LEU, and it would not get into the area of the HEU.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Salehi. The next question we have for you here is about the European partners. So given Europe's struggle to preserve the JCPOA and its limited influence during the recent war, does Iran still see added value in having European actors at the table in future agreements with the US, or it's going to be, a bilateral affair? Let's put it that way.
Could you repeat the question? I didn't get it. What is?
Of course. So given Europe's struggle to preserve the JCPOA and its limited influence during the recent war, does Iran still see added value in having European actors at the table in future agreements with the US? So
I didn't quite get the question. I mean, does Iran
need Europe? Basically, does Iran need Europe? Does Iran need Europe in these agreements? Does Iran see European states as a potential partners for the future agreements, like it was with the JCPOA?
Between Iran and the US, future partners? Is that what?
Yeah. Like similar to JCPOA, like the future kind of deal.
Well, if I've understood the question correctly, well, it's difficult unless I understand the question. If it is written, probably I can, because I cannot. Could you, in a concise way, say what is the essence of the question? The essence.
The essence of the question
does it have to do with the partnership between Iran and the US concerning the new agreement?
Yes. So does Iran still see European countries as potential partners to involve in any future agreements?
Europeans.
Yes, European countries, like it was with the JCPOA.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, it is, you have to ask this question for the Europeans themselves. They sidelined themselves, If Europeans had stood with the JCPOA firmly, we wouldn't have been in this situation that we are now in, We, after the President Trump's administration, the previous administration, torn up the agreement, the JCPOA agreement, and he went out of this agreement. We did not dissociate ourselves from that agreement. Even until now, we never dissociated ourselves from the agreement. So if the Europeans had continued their commitment to this agreement, we wouldn't have reached such a stage. And the JCPOA would have been continued as it was envisaged. But now, unfortunately, Europe didn't play its role, I think, wisely. And it put itself on the sideline. So Europe is not now an important player. It is the Americans who are holding the main responsibility of resolving this file, the nuclear file. So, but we welcome Europe at any time. We are natural partners. We have been natural partners for millennia when there was the Persian Empire and the Roman Empire. We have been partners since then. So it is very natural for us to welcome the European partnership in this regard. And Europe and Iran geographically are much nearer than Iran and the United States. So yes, if that question I've understood it correctly, I think Europe can still has an opening opportunity to get involved more seriously. But this time, if they get involved, they have to be serious, and they have to stay committed to whatever commitment they make, and not to walk away. This is one. And the second thing is, if this agreement between Iran and the US continues, I think the future, we can expand the bilateral cooperations between Iran and the US in other domains, such as economic domain and scientific domain, and the very last, at the very end, if there was mutual trust built enough for both sides to understand that now it is about time to extend it to political partnership, then that is also probably possible, but not at this time. This time we can expand the partnership and the cooperation with the United States in the domains of scientific cooperation and economic cooperation. If that works out, then in the final stage, we can see whether we can get into political cooperation or whatever, mutual understanding and trust building.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Salehi. Maybe one or two more, and then we'll move on. The other question we have here that has been voted is, Iran adopted a fatwa against WMD when Saddam Hussein was no longer in power. Now, Israel has become both an ideological opponent and operational threat to Iran. Can the recent developments encourage the new supreme leader reverse or change the fatwa against weapons of mass destruction?
Change what?
Fatwa.
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 Yes.
Fatwa. Yes, sorry. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, our fatwa is in place. Our leader has always insisted that this fatwa has its roots in the principles of our religion. And the fatwa has always been in place in the past 15 years, probably since the first time that the fatwa was issued. And our martyred leader had always insisted that this is against the principles of Islam and the pillars of Islam, and therefore the fatwa is in its place.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Salehi. The last question, I think, and then we'll move on, because I understand we have a lot, and I'm sorry to the audience, but we do have limited time. So the last question I would like to ask you from the Q&A that we have is, the MOU between Iran and US seems to be a building block, but does not address issues that existed before the war over sanctions and Iran's nuclear program. What limitations on its nuclear program, international oversight, would Iran be willing to accept? And what would you expect from the United States as well? So what each side would be able to make concessions on? I think that's the question.
What concessions we can make on nuclear? Is that the question? On nuclear activities?
Yes.
What concessions we can make on nuclear activities? Well,
yes.
The negotiators. I mean, I'm not in the team of the negotiating team, but certainly Iran will not give up its right on enrichment. This has been, but we have always said that we will never give up our rights as reflected in the NPT, okay? But also, but at the same time, we remain committed not to divert into nuclear armaments, in other words, because of the fatwa, not to produce nuclear armaments, not to use them, and not to accumulate them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Salehi. At this point, I just would like to thank you for also making the time to join this webinar. I know that you will have to run soon for the meeting, but we very much value your time and your expertise and insight. I think it's very valuable both for our international audiences, but also I think young students in Iran who will be joining the Young Pugwash Iran in the future. So thank you so much, Dr. Salehi. Thank you.
It was a delightful meeting, and I thank you, all of you. That I am so happy to see some of the faces that I had not had the opportunity to see them in the past few years. And I'm happy to see you for the first time, and you managed very well this meeting, and I wish you good luck for the future responsibility that you are holding. And I wish the best for the new establishment in Iran, the Young Pugwash activities. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Salehi. At this moment, please do not turn off from the meeting. We still continue. We have a lot of speakers and a lot of interesting insights to cover up until the end of the meeting. So without further ado, let me invite our next speaker, and it will be Dr. Ariobarzan Muhammadi. And he is assistant professor of University of Tehran. And Dr. Muhammadi, it would be great if you could talk to us about how recent events and the war have affected Iran's relation with Arab countries and other regional actors, and what implications they may have for the future security and political order in the Middle East. Dr. Muhammadi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and I would like to express my thanks and appreciation for inviting me to this very important meeting. And I would like to thanks especially Mr. Said Hanai, the institutions involved in organizing this meeting, Young Pugwash, and the other esteemed institutions. Let me start by the conclusion of my talk, if I may. I'm trying to say that the nuclear bomb deterrence myth was busted in the last 3 years, especially after the recent war between Iran and Israel and US and Iran. And we have seen what I would like to term or call humbleization of nuclear deterrence after years and years of speculations about how even one nuclear bomb can, guarantee the security of a nation. All of us have heard the argument that if you compare North Korea with Libya in the last 10 years or so, and North Korea got the bomb and was saved. Gaddafi didn't get the bomb and was removed. That was the dichotomy up until last 3 years. But something has changed in the international arena and in the regional theater. Let me name a few of these important historical events. First of all, Russia-Ukraine war. Russia is the world's strongest nuclear bomb superpower. Russia has the ability to destroy the planet Earth 6 times repeatedly, and that's only by nuclear bombs and not the hydrogen bombs. Even though it didn't stop Ukraine to attack Russian soil, Russian facilities, the depth of Russian territory was targeted by weapons much humbler and much smaller than the arsenal that is available to Russia. And if we have a look at Pakistan and Afghanistan, Afghanistan has initiated attacks on Pakistan, which is a regional nuclear power. And Iran and Israel, the fact that Israel is an undeclared nuclear country in terms of military didn't stop Iran from attacking or retaliating the attacks by Israel. That was very painful for that system. So what has stopped countries from using nuclear weapons in order to become victorious in the battles in the last, let's say, 3 years or so, when one side of the war was a nuclear power, at least? I think, or I believe there were few reasons. One of them, of course, or the first one, is the material costs, including radiation, health risks, pollution, loss of lives, economic effects. But I think the main or the more important reason are the political costs. And what causes or the roots of political chaos is ethical norms and the discourse. And this is where institutions such as Pugwash comes into picture. With the efforts of institutions such as Pugwash and other institutions who, in the last century or so, tried to prove the negative sides of nuclear bombs and the positive sides of dialogue and cooperation for peaceful nuclear energy, the discourse has changed dramatically in the last decades. And this is why no country in the world can easily use nuclear weapon, even if it's attacked in its capital and in the heart of its military and strategic facilities. So this is a positive, I would say, incident and a positive term, a positive shift. And that's what makes me optimistic about the future of Iran-US deal and possibility of a cooperation between Iran and the regional countries to avoid war and encourage interdependence in future. Because unlike JCPOA, which was achieved mainly through political reasoning, I believe, this time this deal was achieved because of a stalemate from both sides. Both sides realized that they cannot have their cake and eat it, or the various sides. And this is more a guarantee, more a solid material guarantee to any deal than a share, ethical maxim or a Kantian view of the world. So, what I would like to add as the last section of my talk is that we need to have a new approach. I mean, Iran and the Arab countries need to have a new approach to the future of the Middle East. Iran has realized that there are concerns, legitimate concerns, both internationally, globally, and regionally, that needs to be addressed by the Iranian government, and we need to put ourselves in their shoes. Iran has realized that there is limits to conventional weapons and even nuclear weapons. But the other side mutually has realized that the Arab countries, that the US cannot guarantee their full security. And even though they have been trying to diversify their allies in the recent years, they already realized that after the Asian pivot of Obama and first Trump presidency and Biden presidency, that Middle East is no longer the top priority of the US. And even though they have tried to diversify their security alliances with the European countries, and even if through Abrahamic Accord with Israel, that didn't help them that much. And that wasn't sufficient. And that is not a substitute to a direct dialogue with Iran. So I think that geography is very important, and have taught everyone in the region a lesson that we and Arabs and other countries are neighbors by the force of geography, and also by the force of history and culture and similarities of our culture. And we need to establish a dialogue, fruitful dialogue, in order to avoid catastrophes of nuclear war, God forbid, and any other type of war. And with that, I would like to end my brief talk, and wish everyone a new and prosperous Middle East. And I hope that we turn the page, and this recent agreement would not be the only positive thing that we hear in the coming days and months. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammadi, for giving the context on Iran relationship with other Middle Eastern neighbors and generally the politics within the Middle East. I think this is a very important dimension in the war that has seemingly happened, in between US, Israel, and Iran did spill off in the region. And I think that's a very important factor to talk about and think of how the dialogue can prosper in the future as well. Now I would like to not give a floor, but we have a video actually. So we have a speaker, Dr. Hamed Wafai, and he's a professor of the Chinese studies, and he's a former director general of the Office of International Relations and professor of Chinese studies at the University of Tehran. He couldn't make it today to the webinar because he's traveling to China, but we really wanted to include his remarks. So he kindly recorded a video for us. The video is in Farsi and Persian, but we last minute translated it and we added the subtitles to the video. But you would see that the subtitles go much faster than the speech in the Persian language. So they would finish much earlier than the end of the video, but this is the full speech. So, we didn't cut anything. This is the full speech. It's just the way technology works, unfortunately. We will also copy paste the English translation to the chat so you can also read it if if you have trouble watching it. I will start sharing the video now, and I also ask my colleague to copy paste the intervention in English into the chat. And give me 1 second so I can properly share it. Okay, so I hope everyone sees the video, and let's.
خدمت اساتید گرامی و دوستان محترمی که در این نشست در خدمتشون هستیم. در ابتدای سخن وظیفه خودم میدونم بابت اینکه فرصت حضور برخط و آنلاین در این نشست رو ندارم از اساتید گرامی عذرخواهی بکنم و از طرفی ابراز خرسندی و خوشحالی بکنم به خاطر موقعیت و فرصتی که دست داده برای همرسانی و اشتراک دیدگاه‌هام در خصوص ژئوپلیتیک نوظهور شرق و فرصتی که روابط ایران و چین در این فضا خواهد داشت. خب بعد از درگیری نظامی و تجاوز وحشیانه آمریکا و رژیم اسرائیل به کشور ایران و مقاومتی که مردم
Apologies, I was told that the video is not seen. Could someone on the call who can confirm that they don't see the video?
We don't see it, Ksenia.
Okay, apologies. The technology does play a bad game with us. Let me reshare it again. Share. What about now? Do you see the video?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, let's try.
ایران و نیروهای نظامی کشور ما در این خصوص از خودشون نشون دادن. به نظر میرسه که ما شاهد وقوع یک فضای جدید در ژئوپلیتیک منطقه و به بیان دیگر شاهد ظهور یک نظم جدید در این حوزه جغرافیایی مهم از نظام بین الملل هستیم. نکته‌ای که در خصوص روابط ایران و چین باید به اون اشاره بکنیم این هستش که جمهوری اسلامی ایران درباره تحولاتی که پس از وقوع این درگیری در منطقه رخ داد از کلیدواژه و عبارت نظم جدید در غرب آسیا و حوزه خلیج فارس یاد کرده. این نکته مهمی است. به باور کشور ایران شرایط منطقه دیگر به وضعیت پیش از جنگ باز نخواهد گشت. تحولاتی که در منطقه رخ داد، تجاوزی که انجام شد، دفاعی که از جانب مردم و حکومت ایران انجام شد، موقعیت کشورهای منطقه، ایفای نقشی که بازیگران فرامنطقه‌ای در این درگیری‌ها داشتند، همه حاکی از وقوع شرایط و نظمی جدید در منطقه است. یکی از نکاتی که درباره تحولات این ماه‌های اخیر در منطقه غرب آسیا شاهدش بودیم، نقش‌آفرینی پررنگ کشور چین در وضعیتی بود که پس از آغاز تجاوز نظامی آمریکا و رژیم اسرائیل به ایران مشاهده شد. در این چارچوب وقتی که ورود چینی‌ها به معادلات این منطقه رو پس از تجاوز نظامی آمریکا و رژیم اسرائیل به ایران رصد و بررسی می‌کنیم، میتونیم به این جمع‌بندی برسیم که چینی‌ها یک حضور و ظهور بی‌سابقه ای رو در یک معادله امنیتی در غرب آسیا به همگان نشون دادن. اگر بخوام به مصادیق این حضور و اقداماتی که چینی‌ها در این مدت کوتاه انجام دادن اشاره بکنم، میتونم به تماس‌های تلفنی چندین باره، بیش از 30 تماس تلفنی وزیر خارجه چین با مقامات کشورهای مختلف درباره تحولات منطقه انجام داد. شاتل دیپلماسی که شاهدش بودیم از جانب دستگاه دیپلماسی چین یکی دیگر از مصادیق این دیپلماسی فعال بود. اعزام فرستاده ویژه کشور چین به منطقه و رایزنی با بازیگران منطقه‌ای دیگر مصداق این حضور پررنگ چینی ها بود. نهایتاً وتوی قطعنامه شورای امنیت و پس از اون ارائه ابتکار مشترک با کشور پاکستان و در مرحله بعد ارائه ابتکار چهاربندی از جانب رهبر چین یعنی آقای شی جین پینگ برای صلح و ثبات در منطقه غرب آسیا مراحل بعدی بود که چینی ها برای ایفای نقش در این بحران و معادله امنیتی در این حوزه از خودشون نشون دادن. نکته‌ای که قابل توجه هست این هست که تا به امروز عمدتاً نقش‌آفرینی چینی‌ها در حوزه غرب آسیا با ابزار ژئواکونومیک صورت می‌گرفت، اما ما در این معادله شاهد بروز سویه جدیدی از ایفای نقش چینی‌ها در یک معادله امنیتی و ژئوپلیتیک در این حوزه بودیم. نکته‌ای که وجود داره این هستش که تمامی نقش‌آفرینی چین و ارائه ابتکارات جدیدی که از جانب رأس هرم رهبری چین در این معادله رخ داد در چارچوب ابتکار امنیت جهانی کشور چین بروز و ظهور پیدا کرد. این نکته مهمی است. وقتی که مطالعه می‌کنیم مواضع اخیر دستگاه دیپلماسی چین رو با ابتکارات چهارگانه‌ای از جانب کشور چین مواجه میشیم که عبارتند از ابتکار امنیت جهانی، ابتکار تمدن جهانی، ابتکار توسعه جهانی و ابتکار حکمرانی جهانی. مجموعه این ابتکارات فضایی رو برای کشور چین ایجاد کردند جهت نقش‌آفرینی فرامرزی در معادلات بین المللی. یک نکته قابل توجه که در خصوص ایفای نقش چین و جمهوری اسلامی ایران در نظم جدید غرب آسیا قابل توجه هست، تقاطعی هستش که ابتکارات چهارگانه کشور چین با منافع ملی کشور ایران پیدا کرده. این نکته مهم و حائز اهمیتی هستش. باید توجه داشته باشیم که چارچوبی که جمهوری اسلامی ایران به عنوان نظم جدید منطقه از اون یاد میکنه کاملا قابل جمع‌بندی هست با ابتکاراتی که رهبری کشور چین برای ایفای نقش در این حوزه تعریف کرده. این مسئله مهمی هست که میتواند مژده و خبر ایفای نقش یک قدرت منطقه‌ای و یک قدرت فرامنطقه‌ای برای بازتعریف نظم منطقه‌ای رو به ما بده. مسئله‌ای که وجود داره این هستش که و حالا این موضوعی هستش که در مراکز مطالعات چین در کشور ایران و نهادهای دانشگاهی کشور ما امروز دربارش بحث و گفتگو میشه و اون عبارت از این هستش که جمهوری اسلامی ایران به این جمع‌بندی رسیده که برای تثبیت نظم جدید در این منطقه احتیاج به حضور یک بازیگر فرامنطقه‌ای داره. بین بازیگرانی که در این منطقه بازیگران فرامنطقه‌ای که در این منطقه ایفای نقش کردند، خب ایالات متحده که نیروی مداخله‌گر و فتنه‌گری بود و به طور مستقیم در جنگ اخیر ایفای نقش منفی داشت. منتها کشور چین کشوری هستش که در امنیت منطقه غرب آسیا ذی‌نفع هستش و این نکته کلیدی هستش که فرصت ایفای نقش چینی‌ها در این منطقه رو فراهم میکنه. به نظر میرسه که جمهوری اسلامی ایران با کلیدواژه نظم جدید در غرب آسیا و عدم بازگشت شرایط این منطقه به شرایط سابق میتواند در چارچوب ابتکاراتی که و با تعامل با ابتکارات چهارگانه‌ای که رأس هرم رهبری کشور چین مطرح کرده نوید شکلگیری نظم جدید در این منطقه رو به دیگران بدهد. مسئله دیگری که در این چارچوب وجود داره بازیگران منطقه‌ای و کشورهای عرب حوزه خلیج فارس هستند. به نظر میرسه ما در صورت تمایل بازیگران مختلف این منطقه به ورود چین به تعریف مختصات نظم جدید در منطقه با حضور بازیگران عرب به عنوان یک ضلع این نظم، بازیگران عرب کشورهای حوزه خلیج فارس به عنوان یک ضلع، کشور چین به عنوان قاعده این مثلث و جمهوری اسلامی ایران به عنوان ضلع سوم این مثلث، میتونیم به دنبال شکلگیری یک نظم جدید و مختصات جدید در تحولات ژئوپلیتیک این منطقه باشیم. مسئله‌ای که وجود داره این هستش که در این حوزه و تحولاتی که در اینجا در این منطقه غرب آسیا در جریان هست، تقاطع منافع امنیتی، به بیان دیگر منافع ژئوپلیتیک و ژئواستراتژیک کشورهایی که عرض کردم اینجا رخ میده و این یک فرصت بی‌بدیلی رو در اختیار طرفین قرار میده. موضوع آخری که مایل هستم به اون اشاره بکنم، ارتقایی هستش که به واسطه تحولات منطقه در مناسبات ایران و چین رخ خواهد داد. جمهوری اسلامی ایران این فرصت و این دریچه طلایی رو پیدا کرده که روابط خودش رو با چین از یک روابط عادی و یک روابط خرید و فروش اقتصادی ساده به جایگاه نظمساز برای کشور چین ارتقا بده. این به این معنا هستش که روابط ایران و چین این فرصت رو پیدا میکنه که به یک سطح جدید استراتژیک ارتقا پیدا بکنه. در این شرایط ایران میتواند از ظرفیت کشور چین به عنوان یک قدرت فرامنطقه‌ای و یک کشوری که ذی‌نفع در معادلات امنیتی در این منطقه هست و غرب آسیا رو به عنوان یکی از اولویت‌های خودش تعریف کرده بهره برداری بکنه. فراموش نکنیم که چارچوبی که تهران و پکن برای روابط خودشون تعریف کردن چارچوب مشارکت جامعه راهبردی هستش و در این چارچوب کاملا فرصت و امکان باز تعریف نظم جدید در این منطقه، مجدد تأکید میکنم با حضور ایران، چین و دیگر بازیگران منطقه به ویژه کشورهای حوزه خلیج فارس وجود خواهد داشت. نهایتاً به عنوان جمله آخر عرض میکنم که به نظر میرسه پس از مقاومت مردم ایران در برابر تجاوزی که اتفاق افتاد، شرایط منطقه غرب آسیا و خلیج فارس دیگر به وضعیت سابق باز نخواهد گشت و این بازیگران منطقه با کمک بازیگران منصفتر و قدرت‌های منطقه‌ای و قدرت‌های اقتصادی از جمله چین هستند که ظرفیت ایفای نقش برای بازتعریف نظم منطقه رو خواهند داشت. از توجه شما سپاسگزارم. امیدوارم نشست پربار و خوبی رو داشته باشیم. در ادامه نشست حتما از فرمایشات و بیانات اساتید دیگر هم استفاده خواهم کرد. مجدد تشکر میکنم.
Sharing. Thank you, everyone. And we thank Dr. Hamed Vafai for providing very important context on Iran's relationship with China. And I think China's role generally in the region and how he sees Iran's role evolving within the emerging Eastern geopolitical landscape. Again, just to, as I see some concerns in the Q&A, this was the full speech. So everything you saw in subtitles and everything we inserted in the chat is a full speech. It's just the way it is inserted. It was shorter than the video itself. So if you want to see again the full speech, it is in the chat. And yeah, the subtitles were full as well. And now we have one more speaker to go before we're done with the expert panel, and then can go a little bit into maybe discussion or questions. I would like to invite Sayed Mohammed Ali Sayed Hanayeh, the dear partner with whom we organized this event together. He is the founder and the president of Nations Diplomacy Think Tank. He's also the member of the International Student Pugwash, and he is the one starting the Student Pugwash Iran. And I would like to invite Sayed to talk about the role that the next generation of Iranian experts and dialogue practitioners can play in strengthening regional and global security, and how such initiatives as Student Pugwash Iran can contribute to building trust and cooperation across borders, especially in these trying times of crisis. Sayed, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, distinguished guests, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is great pleasure and honor to join this important discussion I would like to begin by expressing my sincere appreciation to Professor Al-Shahristani and Professor Hallberg, and also Pugwash conferences on science and world affairs, Open Nuclear Network, University of Tehran and SYP, and all of colleagues whose efforts have made this dialogue possible. I am particularly honored to participate alongside such distinguished scholars, diplomats, and practitioners. We are meeting at the moment when discussion about the Middle East are often dominated by military developments, strategic calculations, and geopolitical competition. Yet behind these headlines lies a less visible but equally important question. How can societies preserve dialogue when trust is becoming increasingly scarce? The region continues to experience armed conflicts, geopolitical rivalries, economic uncertainty, technological transformation, and growing concerns regarding regional and international security. In such circumstances, discussion about security frequently focus on military capabilities, deterrence, strategic balance, and official negotiations. While these dimensions are undoubtedly important, they do not tell the whole story. Sustainable peace and security are not built only through agreements between governments. They are also built through trust, understanding, communication, and long-term human relationships. This is where dialogue becomes essential, and this is precisely why track 2 diplomacy remains more relevant than ever. When official channels become limited, strained, or politically constrained, academic institutions, think tanks, scientific communities, civil societies organizations, and young professionals can help preserve channels of communication and mutual understanding. In many cases, trust begins with a conversation line before it becomes a policy. At a time when concerns regarding nuclear risk continue to affect international security, dialogue remains one of the most effective tools for preventing misunderstanding and reducing tension and preserving strategic stability. This principle has long been at the heart of the Pugwash movement and remains highly relevant today. When discussing dialogue and peace building, it is important to recognize that these concepts are not foreign into Iranian historical experience. For centuries, the Iranian plateau served as a meeting point of civilization, cultures, religious, and trade routes. Throughout its history, Iran interacted with diverse peoples and traditions across Asia, the Middle East, Central Asia, and beyond. This long civilization experience contributed to a cultural that values knowledge, dialogue, coexistence, intellectual exchange, and engagement across differences. Indeed, some of the most significant period of Iranian history were characterized not by isolation, but by connectivity, by serving as a bridge between regions, societies, and civilization. Throughout history, Iran's greatest contribution was not merely geopolitical influence, but also its ability to connect worlds. Persian civilization emerged at the intersection of cultures, languages, religious, and intellectual traditions. Its historical experience reminds us that security is often strongest when societies remain connected rather than isolated. This historical experience has also been shaped by the ethical traditions that developed with Iranian society over centuries, among them the intellectual and moral heritage of Shia thought has placed significant emphasis on justice, human dignity, knowledge, responsibility, and dialogue. While these values have often been expressed in different ways throughout the history, they continue to inform how many Iranians view engagement with the board, not as a zero-sum competition, but as a search for understanding, coexistence, and the peaceful resolution of differences. Unfortunately, contemporary discussions about Iran are often dominated by geopolitical tension and security concerns. While these issues are important, they do not fully reflect the richness and diversity of Iranian society, nor the aspiration of many Iranians, scholars, students, researchers, and young professionals who seek constructive engagement with the board. In our experience, there is a strong desire among young Iranians not only to understand international development, but also to contribute positively to them. This conversation has guided much of our work over recent years. Through the Nations Diplomacy Think Tank and the Youth Diplomacy Center of Iran, we have sought to create a practical platform for dialogue, cooperation, and intellectual exchange. Over the past years, these initiatives have connected thousands of students, researchers, young professionals, and international experts through conferences, policy dialogues, academic exchanges, leadership programs, and youth diplomacy initiatives. And many of these interactions have evolved into long-term professional, academic, and institutional networks that continue to grow today. Our experience has shown that even during periods of political tension, people-to-people engagement remains possible. Students, researchers, scientists, and young professionals often discover common interests lying before government discover common position. More importantly, we have witnessed how academic exchanges, youth diplomacy initiatives, and informal dialogue platform can connect individuals from countries that often have limited opportunities for direct engagement. These experiences remind us that trust can begin long before formal negotiation take place. Our objective has never been merely to discuss international challenges. Rather, it has been to create opportunities for meaningful engagement among people who might otherwise never have the chance to meet, exchange ideas, build professional relationships, and develop mutual understanding. In a world increasingly affected by polarization and mistrust, such connections matter. They may not always attract headlines, but they help build the foundations upon which future cooperation become possible. This is also the spirit behind the student young Pugwash Iran. We see this initiative not simply as a student organization, but as a platform for nurturing the next generation of dialogue practitioners, researchers, scientists, diplomats, and policy professionals. A platform where young people can engage with global challenges, connect with international peers, and contribute to a cultural cooperation rather than confrontation. The next generation should not be viewed merely as the leaders of tomorrow. They are already participants in shaping the security environment of today. Young researchers, scientists, entrepreneurs, diplomats, and civil society actors are increasingly shaping international conversation and influencing how societies respond to global challenges. Investing in youth dialogue is therefore not a symbolic gesture. It is a strategic investment in future stability. Our generation has grown up in a world shaped by globalization, technological transformation, climate challenges, nuclear risks, and deeply interconnected security issues. We have also learned that the consequences of conflict rarely remain confined within national borders. None of these challenges can be solved by one country acting alone. They require cooperation, they require dialogue, and perhaps most importantly, they require a new generation capable of building bridges across political, cultural, and geographical divides. For decades, the Pugwash movement has demonstrated that dialogue among scientists, scholars, and practitioners can contribute to reducing risk even during period of profound international tension. That lesson remains highly relevant today as we launch a student in Pugwash Iran. We do not claim that young people alone can solve the complex challenges facing our region. What we do believe is that sustainable peace requires investment not only in institutions and agreements, but also in relationship, understanding, and human connection. The future of our region will not be determined solely by military balance or diplomatic negotiations. It will also be determined by whether we are able to sustain channels of dialogue across political, cultural, and social divides. If future generation inherit a stronger network of trust than we inherited, then initiatives such as a student in Pugwash Iran will already have achieved something meaningful. In time of crisis, dialogue is not a luxury, it is necessity, and perhaps the most important investment we can make today is not only in institutions, technologies, or agreements, but in people, particularly young people, who will inherit the responsibility of building a more peaceful, cooperative, and interconnected future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sayed. And I just also want to congratulate you on establishing the chapter. It kind of started with the Hiroshima conference of Pugwash last year, and it's very promising to see, you know, how even in this very difficult times, it is possible to find ways to cooperate, to talk, and to properly understand each other as well. I think that's the most important part, and often lacking even in the diplomacy, unfortunately. I know we are well over time, so I think the 65 people that are still on the call and listening to us, since we had to improvise a little bit of the Q&A at the beginning, we are behind the timing that we originally planned, but I would like to address maybe 2 or 3 questions before we conclude the meeting. So if you can stay and listen, please do. But if not, of course, we understand since we are over time. Let me ask one question, since now we have Dr. Mohammadi here, we have Sayed here. Let me first ask Dr. Mohammadi, and I'm looking at the big bank of questions we have, and it's very hard to find the one to ask. So please, you know, those who upload the questions, you're actually helping me as a moderator to make sure we ask the questions that are most interesting. So I would like to ask a question to Dr. Mohammadi. I hope you're still with us. Dr. Mohammadi?
Yes,
yes, great.
Yeah, thank you.
So there is one question on the internal thinking about the deal, because, you know, we talk about, you know, how it can affect, you know, the international security, different actors in the region and abroad. But the question is, what is the internal thinking about the US and Iranian deal that is hopefully to be signed on Friday? And what different actors within the Iranian government think about the deal? Like, what is the mood about around these developments?
It's very hard to say. It's in the infancy stages of the deal right now. But I would say a few points from my observations in the last a few weeks that the deal was being cooked, so to speak. You know that the majority of the, let's say, people who were involved in preparing the deal or negotiating the deal from Iranian side were not the same, let's say, party that you have seen in JCPOA from Iran. So they weren't the reformists or the moderates, so to speak. So this is a positive thing that even, the other wing of Iranian political spectrum, which are the principalists, have reached this conclusion that at the end of the day, we need to reach a political deal. Of course, everyone is very patriotic in Iran and is ready to defend Iran by their lives if they have to. But war is not the answer to every problem in the region, and the negotiations and dialogue is the final outcome, so to speak, and something that it's we cannot go into endless war forever. Iranians have realized this, Americans have realized this, and the region has realized this. So, with regard to the internal thinking, I think that the realism has taken over, and instead of idealist sign of kind of aspirations and let's say looking for a zero-sum game, Iranian leaders have reached this point that we need to consider the other side's argument as well. And instead of a zero-sum game, we should think about a deal that everyone feels a bit victorious and maybe a bit not so. So that's something positive. When you see people are becoming more reasonable, more realistic, but not because they are ethically binding themselves to become more realistic, but because they realize that the other choices are more costly. So this is, although it's not a pleasant thing to confess, but at the end of the day, it's better late than never, and we have reached this point. And I hope that we hang on to dialogue and peace, hopefully.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammadi. And your remarks actually reminded me of the approach that the president of the Non-Proliferation Treaty Conference took when he was giving kind of his framework, the background of how he would preside over the conference. He said, "I want to make everyone equally happy and unhappy," in a kind of most diplomatic way, because the compromise at the end of the day, it's not really about making everyone happy. It's also making everyone equally unhappy, because yeah. Thank you, Dr. Mohammadi. I have one question. Well, we see some warm words coming towards the Young Pugwash Iran initiative to you, Sayed, in the Q&A. And there's actually a very specific question that I want to ask you is, not me, but someone in the audience wants to ask you, what are the programs and activities of Iran's Pugwash, and how Iranian students can engage with it? And is there any space for older Pugwash members from Iran? So I guess this is an interested side from the older generation. Oh, you're muted, Sayed, you're muted. Mhm. And the technical glitches continue to happen to us today. Unfortunately, I cannot unmute you as well. Maybe,
It's now.
yes, it's working. It's working.
Okay, sorry. Thank you for his question. Student like Pugwash Iran is still at an earlier stage of development, and today's event actually marks its inaugural public activity. Our vision is to create a platform to connect Iranian students and young professionals with the broader international Pugwash community and with global discussion on peace, security, science, diplomacy, nuclear risk reduction, and international cooperation. And in the coming years, we hope to organize a range of activities, including webinars, policy dialogues, study groups, training workshops, and others. For Iranian students, engagement can take many forms. They can participate in our event, in our official page, in Instagram and LinkedIn. And also, you can send email to our secretary. And after that, it's honor to join us.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sayed. And again, if here we have some students from Iran or Iranian nationals or who live in Iran and want to be involved as well, don't hesitate, I think, to contact Sayed, and he will provide more information once he has it as well. And at this stage, I also see that Dr. Mohammadi, I think, has left us, but I want to ask, I think, one more last question before we end, Sayed. So to you, and we'll close at this point. The question that actually I had, apologies for abusing the moderator's role, but I think it's very important that a lot of people also, don't know what's happening inside Iran. They've never been to Iran. So my question is inspired to with an idea to understand what's happening in Iran a bit better, and not only for us as researchers and scholars, but also for someone who is, engaged in decision making and policy making. What conversation is taking place inside Iran today that deserves more attention internationally? Maybe something that people overlook and don't pay too much attention, but we think it's very important for kind of the context of Iran nationally, that, we as internationals should know more and pay attention closer.
About inside of government, actually, and the ideas inside of government, yeah.
I mean, inside, it could be in a society, it could be in the government. I mean, whatever you feel comfortable to speak about, of course. But I think the observations that you think might be very useful for the international scholars and researchers and academics.
Yeah. Naturally, I cannot speak on behalf of the Iranian government because I'm just researcher and think tank actors. But from an analytic perspective, there appears to be a broad recognition across much of the Iranian political spectrum that a diplomatic solution is preferable to continued escalation and instability. That being said, different actors often emphasize different priorities. Some focus primarily on economic recovery, sanctions relief, and into international markets. For them, a successful agreement is important because it can improve economic atmosphere and create opportunities for development. Others approach the issue primarily through a security lens. Their main concern is whether any agreements can provide sufficient guarantees, preserve Iran's strategic interest and avoid the repetition of previous experiences where political understandings and there are also actors who place significant emphasis on sovereignty, dignity, and strategic autonomy for this group. The central question is not whether an agreement exists, but whether it is perceived as balanced and sustainable. Despite these differences, I think there is a relatively a strong on one point, no one benefits from crisis management. Most understand that long-term regional stability and economic development require some degree of diplomatic accommodation. Therefore, the debate is often less about whether diplomacy is desirable and more about what kind of agreement can be trusted, how it should be implemented, and what guarantees exist for its durability. In my view, the real challenge is not reaching an agreement. The real challenge is building sufficient confidence so that all parties believe the agreement will survive political changes, regional crises, and shifts in leadership. That issue of trust has arguably become as important as the technical detail of any deal itself.
Thank you, Sayed, and thank you also for highlighting the importance of the durability, across changes and shifts and I guess in both governments involved. And I think it's very important. I think generally it's for any international security issue when different countries are involved, it's so important to also understand the domestic situation and how that also affects, the calculus that countries may adhere to when they negotiate agreements. So I know we are well over time, and I'm very thankful for our audience to bearing with us and staying with us for almost 2 hours. We're very thankful to all the speakers who found time today to contribute to this discussion. And we would like to highlight the importance of the dialogue, especially in these times of crisis and when the war happening. And thankfully, we are at an opportune moment when there is a potential deal happening quite soon. And we hope that stays the same. But anyways, just wanted to highlight and say thanks to all the organizers. So Open Nuclear Network, Student Young Pugwash Iran, University of Tehran, Nations Diplomacy Think Tank, and International Student Young Pugwash, and to remind everyone how important it is to collaborate throughout civil society groups, scientific and academic groups, to make sure that we strive the dialogue when sometimes governments are unable to do that or able to do this, like in this case, for example, luckily, but it's not always the case. So hence, the civil society contribution is very, very important. It was the So What webinar, and my name is Ksenia from Open Nuclear Network, and I was very happy to moderate this discussion. I would like to say thanks to all the organizers and speakers. Special thanks to you, Sayed, and really congratulations on establishing the Young Pugwash Iran chapter. And we really hope to see it thrive and do a lot of great things, both nationally and internationally. And we'll make sure to build further collaboration together. Thanks everyone for attending. We've recorded this webinar, so most likely we will have a recording someplace publicly soon. And I would like to wish everyone good the rest of your day. And we'll see you next time at the other webinars.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.